Congressman Hoekstra, if I could begin with you. You have now Donald Trump and his inner circle really isolated here. They will say that this is a Democratic argument or narrative here, but the fact is it's not. The entire Senate, so say Senators McCain and Graham, believe Russia's behind this hacking. U.S. intelligence agencies, they're confident in their assessment. The House Speaker, who's a Republican, as you know, believes Russia's behind the hacking. In fact, is calling for stiffer penalties, as has Mitch McConnell. Why is Donald Trump continuing to defy that consensus?
Well, I think what Donald Trump is doing is he's very clear. He's saying, I'm skeptical of the intelligence. I'm going to wait to see exactly what my intelligence officials are going to present to me.
On what basis? On what basis is he skeptical of the assessment of 16 U.S. intelligence agencies and the acceptance of that assessment from Republican members and leaders of Congress who've been briefed on the intelligence?
You know, I love listening to what's going on now. All the folks that, you know, in the past have criticized the intelligence community are now saying, wow, these folks are infallible. How can you question them? I wish that, you know, that would have been the response to what we saw, not only in terms of what the intelligence community said that they saw in Iraq in 2001 and 2002 in terms of their capability of producing weapons of mass destruction,
right.
But
there's
also
no question
their
they've made
assessment of what
mistakes
was going
before.
on in Iraq.
You're muddying the waters here. Understandable. Listen, the intelligence community got WMD in Iraq wrong. But let's be honest. You've served a long time on the House Intelligence Committee. You've seen where they've gotten things right. Particularly, though, let's talk about in cyber hacking. They were able to identify individuals in China, which the Justice Department charged individuals in China for hacking cyber attacks against the U.S. They were able to identify North Korea as being behind the Sony hack, which then carried consequences as well. They have a track record on this, and despite what Donald Trump says, that in the age of computers, as he said, you can't track this kind of stuff, the fact is the NSA has tools to do this, as do many private companies. Based on that, what is the evidence, then, that Donald Trump has to dismiss it?
Well, let's take a look at the report that the Homeland Security and the FBI issued today. Number one, and this is where you're absolutely right, they said with 100% certainty, basically, we can say that Russia successfully hacked into a political party in the United States. They then go on and say...
There's a statement there. That's something that the president has not, the president-elect, rather, has not accepted.
Right, but then they go on to the more important points. They say it is likely that the Russians exfiltrated data from the databases that it went into. It doesn't say with certainty that it happened, but it said it is likely that they did. Then it says we assess that they shared this information with certain groups, and then the information was made public. But there's lots of other unanswered questions. They don't make an assessment as to whether other people also were able to access that data and exfiltrate it. And they don't go on to perhaps what's the most important point in terms of ascribing what the motives were for this Russian behavior. Was it just the hacking?
You're making a point that they
haven't.
You're making a point that they haven't answered any question. But the key question is who is behind the hack, and that one they seem to have answered with confidence. Patrick, Monica, and Jonathan, I want you to be able to pipe in here. But Patrick, you've been covering this very closely. What do you make of this continued expression of doubts on this?
This is all about legitimacy, Jim. Donald Trump is trying to protect an election result that a lot of Democrats, a lot of others have sort of, raised some doubts about in terms of the interference by Russian intelligence agencies that may have tipped some of this in his favor in the sense of creating so much focus around leaked emails, hacked documents. This is about, for Donald Trump to give in on this and say that Russian intelligence agencies did have a hand in my election, from his point of view, having interviewed him several times, would be crazy. It would be weakening himself before he even gets close in there. And you have to remember, Jim, the way that he responds to these sort of allegations, even when they're put forward by the government, by intelligence agencies, is to go to sort of vagaries and innuendo and sometimes even theories that speak to his voters. Computers are tricky. We don't know how to handle this. This could be a 400-pound guy in a room doing this. And a lot of Americans might sort of say, yeah, computers are tricky. You know, he's so far as president-elect at least and as a candidate, he hasn't been trying to rebut allegations by providing evidence or facts of his own. He just sort of makes statements that that might go over well.
It's about muddying the waters. Monica, the fact is this is going to enter a different phase, though, after the inauguration, because you have Republicans in the Senate as well as House members. I mean, you heard this from Ryan today. You heard it from McCain and Graham. They say they want to enact even tougher sanctions. So when you get into the new legislative session, you're going to have the prospect of a Republican-led Congress pushing for penalties for a crime, in effect, that the president doesn't accept. Does he battle his own party on this?
Well, I'm questioning whether they will push that first or whether they're going to go with his agenda, which is to do jobs and tax reform and things like that. I'm telling you what really is happening, Jim, is Donald Trump is going with his gut, as I've watched for a year and a half with him now. He doesn't always follow the evidence. If he had looked at the evidence and the facts that everybody presented to him, he would have never run for president. So here he is again, listening to his gut. If you looked at his statement today, he said it's time to move on. So he thinks what the American people want him to do is to focus on jobs, ISIS, things like that, not the Russian hack. I do agree with Patrick. It has to do with he's feeling ticked off that they keep questioning the legitimacy of his victory. But I also think he's like one who goes for strength. And he thinks by trying to show weakness about his election, they're making Putin look stronger and America look weaker because, oh my gosh.
Wait a second. You're turning it on the head there a little bit,
I
Monica.
know,
because
but
you're saying
that's what an advisor. I was talking with an advisor today, and they say by laying out all the things that Russia's done to us, it makes us look weaker. This is what a Trump advisor
But how does it
told
make
me.
you look weaker if you don't respond to a major cyber attack? We're entering bizarro world here.
Maybe you. Look, I'm telling you what a Trump advisor told me, and also this same advisor said what's happening is suddenly Obama is laying all this out and trying to be strong against the two countries that Trump has shown that he wants to have improved relations with, Israel and Russia.
Jim,
Jonathan, I do want to ask you a question on that because there is rightful and substantive criticism of the Obama administration that you're hearing from Republicans and Democrats, frankly, that they waited this long to respond. It was on October 7th that the intelligence community said with confidence Russia's hacking the election. And frankly, part of the reason we have reported that the Obama administration waited to respond was because they were worried about delegitimizing what they expected to be a Hillary Clinton victory. So why did they wait so long?
I don't know, Jim. I'm not moved by that. But I want to make two other points, actually. One, actually,
no, but you have to answer the criticism of the Obama administration.
I want to actually answer the question about what would have happened if Hillary Clinton had been elected president. And I put myself in the place of being a Democrat. What would I do if I was a Democrat and these same allegations had been raised? And I have to say that in a small way, and I'll get to Donald Trump in a second, in a small way, I have some sympathy to what Congressman Hoekstra said, which is that I don't trust the Central Intelligence Agency. I haven't trusted the CIA for not just about the WMD, but going back 30, 40 years. I'm not saying that this didn't happen, but I think the evidence that the intelligence community has not put forth to the American people, potentially for legitimate reasons, there is still an open question. But the second thing that I think is much more important is, and this goes back to, Jim, to your previous panel, when you asked, and I'm going to roughly paraphrase you, you asked, have you seen anything like it, a president-elect at odds with the intelligence agencies? And the problem is, and this is what we're facing every single day, we're trying to normalize Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an ignoramus. He does not understand domestic or foreign policy. And so we're sitting back and thinking, how we have somebody who is going to walk into the Oval Office dealing with Russia when he doesn't understand the first basic thing about arms control.